Welcome to Field Notes with Rob and Chris. I'm Chris Buccini, and we're filming at Wilma's on Market Street in downtown Wilmington, Delaware.
And I'm Rob Buccini. Today, we're joined by some of Wilmington's best and brightest chefs and restaurateurs. These culinary leaders have helped shape the Wilmington restaurant scene through their passion for food, expertise in hospitality, and dedication to our community. We're excited to speak with them today about the past, the present, and the future of the restaurant scene here in downtown Wilmington.
Welcome back to Field Notes. We're now joined by owners of Bardea and James Beard semi-finalists for Best New Restaurant, executive chef Antimo DiMeo, and renowned restaurateur Scot Stein. Antimo spent his youth working at his family's Neapolitan pizzerias and eventually rose through the industry under a two-time Michelin star chef at La Torre del Saracino on the Amalfi Coast. In 2018, Antimo and Scot opened Bardea Food and Drink on Market Street in downtown Wilmington.
Scott's family runs 4 generations deep in the Philadelphia area restaurant industry. He came to notoriety as owner of Red Sky and Pearl in Philadelphia, and now oversees all business aspects and operations for Bardea Group, which includes Bardea Food and Drink, Pizzeria Bardea, and Bardea Steak. Bardea earned a semi-finalist nomination for the James Beard Foundation in 2019 for the Best New Restaurant in America. The Delaware Restaurant Association also named Antimo and Scot as rising industry stars in 2019.
Okay, before we dive into the conversation, Rob and I would like to take a moment to congratulate Antimo for his recent James Beard nomination for Best Chef in the Mid-Atlantic region. Congratulations.
Right, thank you, thank you.
We're so proud of you, and it's amazing to be, as we think about sort of, you know, the progression of the Wilmington downtown dining over the last 10 years. You know, I just remember Rob and I meeting with your father, Pino, and at the time there was no pizza place in downtown Wilmington. And Rob and I would go to Pino's pizza places in suburban Philadelphia, and we sort of fell in love with him, and we kept trying to woo him to come here. And thank God he did, because that investment here in downtown Wilmington ultimately led into the Bardeas.
In a relatively short period of time, from meeting your dad, you became, you know, one of the best known chefs, you know, in the Mid-Atlantic for sure. And I think when I first met your dad, you were working in Naples in a restaurant there. And I think that's when, really Chris took the lead in stalking you all, and stalking Pino. And then
I stalked Pino, you stalked. Stalked these guys.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll turn it over to you all. You'd opened up Our Day in Wayne, and I'd gone in for dinner and loved it, and just thought, okay, this is the perfect decor, perfect vibe, and exceptional food. We need you in downtown Wilmington. And I would go. I mean, Scott, Pino, you remember Antimo? I mean, almost every weekend with my son, who was then, I don't know, was he 8? Balthazar?
It seemed like a Saturday routine.
It was
About 3:30, 4 o'clock, a late pizza.
We'd come in and we'd talk like, you do really well here. And the food just kept getting better and better. But anyway, that's enough of our memories. I mean.
You guys, tell us, so you took a chance. You had Our Day in Wayne, and instead of growing in, the natural progression probably would have been suburban Philly, back to downtown Philly. But instead, you pivoted and you came to Wilmington. Like, what were you thinking?
Well, first off, it's funny you guys say that, because like a couple of vendors that we said we were opening up on Market Street, and they're like 7th and Market in Philly. They like gave us like books. Is that where, like, by Independence Hall? And we're like, no, Wilmington. And they're like, ooh. And we're like, wow, like that was like not the encouragement that we wanted to hear in the beginning over there. Yeah. But you guys kept kind of telling us, filling us in when we'd see you at our weekly visits at Our Day, what's going on down there. But when you guys gave us a tour of downtown, that's when we kind of really fell in love with what was going on down here. And you guys showed us a complete spectrum of what was really being built and what the big vision was. I remember sitting in the back of your truck, and we never did a deal like this. We were all back there. And you said, "Are you guys in?" And we shook your hand and we said, "We're in."
Right.
And it
That's
really,
a great memory.
Yeah. And it seems like history. Everything's happened so quickly.
Do you remember anything specifically that you liked when you came to Market Street?
I think for me, it was more so just that small, like homey feel, that almost like a cozy vibe, just kind of like on the precipice of like this grand explosion in a good way. And I feel like it was just good energy, good vibes, and And like Scott said, when we were driving around and kind of seeing a little bit of specifically because for us, we had never really been in at all any part of Wilmington, Trolley Square.
Now you're a resident of Wilmington.
Yeah, exactly. Now I recently moved to Trolley Square, which has been amazing. I never ever in a million years thought I would have moved to Delaware.
You went from the Amalfi Coast.
Yeah, exactly.
to Trolley Square.
Exactly. Yeah, same difference, right? So it's been honestly a dream come true. I think we've definitely grown a lot. And from the day when we opened Bardea, I think our goal was to just put out great food and be a busy restaurant, a successful restaurant. And I don't think either of us in a million years thought it was James Beard worthy. Right. And then, boy, were we wrong. So 3-4 months into it, we got the nomination, and it kind of like changed, I think, the whole trajectory of our futures. And now here we are getting ready for Bardea Steak, and we're super excited.
I mean, Scott, I remember right before you opened, you had looked like you had seen a ghost. Your wife had just come by the new restaurant, not yet opened, and she commented on the lack of people walking by.
I remember this.
By the front door, and back then there really was no one walking by. Now we have this restaurant destination, and I remember calming you and just walking out and saying, God, I hope I'm right. Please God. And then
I remember that so vivid, that conversation.
I remember that vividly. I mean, I can tell you exactly where we were inside the restaurant.
But it seemed like that's the part that we were scratching our heads about a little bit. Like downtown over here, it seemed like it was built, and there was this gem of this little small great town over here. We'd walk down to get coffee at Loma, and it just felt like it had the vibe. But we were never concerned about the weekdays. We just always didn't know, like on the weekends, where are all the people going to come from? We thought on the weekdays there was always been a strong corporate traveler that came down here, and that's really been our biggest surprise. On the weekdays, the amount of people on the weekends, the amount of people that flood down here from the suburbs, it's been super exciting.
Our mom commented, I think she came in on Friday night, and she said there was 25 people waiting outside in February, to come into the restaurant. And I think it's ironic how far we've come since that moment, reflecting on your wife's concern that you all just left from the health inspection, which fortunately was approved for your new restaurant, Bardea Steak, and maybe talk about how it's evolved, Bardea, and then kind of what becomes of Bardea Steak and the garden between the two restaurants.
And even like all great restaurateurs, you've gone from one restaurant to really the Bardea group, where you also have now 2 stalls at Deco Food Hall. And you started with Bardea Pizza, and now El Chingon, your Mexican concept, and pretty incredible. And not a long time, you've gone to 4 concepts.
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey. I'd say, honestly, none of this would be possible without our team. We've developed an amazing team, an amazing culture. I think that's like a big part. Even when we're interviewing people, I've interviewed sometimes people that are overqualified, loads of experience, but may not fit in to our culture. And I always just like to, as long as people have the work ethic and they have the dedication, we wear it on our shirts. We say dedication has no limitations. And I feel like when people have that work ethic and they want to put in the time, it all works out in the end. And I feel like even the taqueria, the pizzeria has been great from day one when we opened in Deco, but the taqueria was a true collaboration with our whole team, which is pretty cool. Like whether, honestly, it's a whole collaboration, and it was from top to bottom. We had dishwashers testing out the guacamole or the tortillas or the barbacoa.
But wasn't it sort of like, the kitchen staff came up with it, executed it, so it was pretty incredible how like sort of democratic it
exactly
was.
Yeah, and it was a big part of it was staff meal. They would always do we'd make a bunch of tacos for staff meal, or whether it was burritos or fajitas, whatever it was. We're big on staff meal, and those flavors, sometimes I'd eat something, I'd be like, ooh, I like that. And I was like, let's make it Bardea, and we amp up the flavors a little bit, but like the inspirations would be something that they would eat at home maybe every day, every other day, and then they are doing it for staff meal.
Is insanely good.
I think one of the reasons we've all become just great friends, in addition to business partners, is you all lead from the front. Literally, the minute you walk into Bardea, you're greeted by Scot, who really understands hospitality, right? Mm-hmm. And then you go to the kitchen, and you're right there in the middle of it all, leading your culinary team. So you guys really are sort of the definition of leading from the front.
And the family, like working with your dad, we work with our mother. Scott, I think my mom might have adopted you along the way. She loves your food so much. And she's obviously, as you know, not afraid to share her criticism.
But Rob, it's funny, like one of the things I love about Field Notes is it gives Rob and I a chance to sort of like look back and sort of really take stock of what's going on. And if you think about, Market Street, which has just been this like obsession, passion, whatever, for Rob and I since 2008, it really goes back to growing up in our kitchen with Mom.
Yeah.
We grew up in a home that was all about food. And it's just like everything was the family always came together to eat. So, of course, when we thought about, what was going to anchor this revitalization of downtown Wilmington, we looked to South Beach and Soho and even Philly. These revitalizations are always led by incredible food, right? Like really like world-class food. And so it really goes back to
entertainment,
Mom. And entertainment.
So and early on, I think you had looked at the location, which is now currently Merchant Bar, and I think we were really concerned at that time. I think we've been really focused on the right restaurant at the right time, and even back then when we first started talking, we were concerned that we thought Merchant Bar location, which Merchant Bar was not there yet, obviously, but it was a little pioneering. And I think maybe, Scott, you could talk about that and then kind of how it's evolved to Bardea Steak.
Yeah, it seemed too soon back then. And but the timing, again, just staying in touch. Yeah. And it seemed like the timing was impeccable. But 2019, like right before the pandemic, this town, we always say we were in the golden age. Yeah. People were flooding the streets. Like we were in this golden age of food. There was such a great destination of dining down here. So now we come out of it with Bardea Steak. We have Lake Cave. We have another restaurant coming to the Boutique Hotel. Yeah. We have all the stuff that the Secors are doing down the street. It seems like downtown is now a dining destination. So
it's collaborative. It's like very cool. Yeah. Like there's this collaboration amongst all the restaurateurs and chefs.
Well, we feel also there's a bond for life after being through COVID, that everyone is connected, and we feel like there's a strong relationship between all the restaurateurs down here. But we are exciting the next chapter with Bardea Steak and then having a garden outside over there. It's going to bring a ton of people, I think, down to the area where we have now people walking outside. We have people dining outside. It's amazing. Like we were saying on the weekend, to have 25 people waiting outside in February in the cold.
And the collaboration, I love it, how all of the owners and the chefs are all friends. Cheerleaders. I mean, I think Joe Van Horn is so excited when all the restaurants close. He's usually the last stop for a lot of the staff for last call. And then when Andrew Zimmerman was in recently, I mean, it was so nice how like Tyler Aiken and you all and he were hanging out in Deco and enjoying the pizza and obviously the new Mexican concept. So yeah, I just it's been a labor of love. It's been incredibly hard work. I mean, I think
you guys are the true. You guys are the true trailblazers.
We're feeling a tailwind after 13, 14 years. And Rob and I always say, God, people don't understand how much time. Rob talked about bringing Baltazar, to our day and Wayne many Saturdays. How many times we've dragged our spouses, our children, to meet with.
Like Scott,
again, your dad.
I have 4 kids. You need to rent from us. We have 4 kids. Like we need the rent to pay the grocery bill.
But it's not just really about us. It's actually pretty cool. Yeah. Like I think people also don't understand the leap of faith that restaurateurs and chefs are taking to be entrepreneurs and just put it all on the line. So for you all to really just choose downtown Wilmington, like that's I think probably why it's so personal for Rob and I, and we've all just become such great friends.
And your capital commitment. I mean, the amount of dollars you've invested into your venues, it's really inspirational, and I'm in awe of it.
I think the city is just, people don't realize. I think now it's out. The word's on the street that we're taking a stab at Philly crowd. Yeah. But we have such a great clientele that goes across this town over here from the suburbs of Philadelphia, all the way from New Jersey. People are coming up from the beach to come over here for dinner.
Well, you guys are really helping to put downtown Wilmington on the map. I mean, what are some of the publications that you've been written up in just in the last few months?
I guess Vogue magazine.
Vogue magazine.
So it's like sometimes it's embarrassing.
Yeah. Right? Give me a softball.
I mean, come on, dude, come on.
We've got
Food and Wine,
Vogue,
Philly Mag.
Yeah.
And listen, when Philly Mag put us in their top 50 restaurants, to have 2 restaurants from Wilmington, And then to
That
have
was
beer
huge.
nomination, to have 2 chefs from Wilmington, to be on the
Rob and I
Mid-Atlantic.
have worked for a decade to sort of like have Wilmington become included in sort of the Philly MSA in that conversation, whether it's business. But what's cool now is you all have really helped elevate Wilmington to be in the restaurant conversation in Philly, which is worldwide, world renowned.
Huge.
Yeah, and when you go to the
Absolutely.
Christiana Mall or the King of Prussia Mall, you have that food court, and all the restaurants at the mall are in that one area. And so our thought all along has been to have a food court concept in downtown Wilmington. So when you think to go out, you think, oh, these are the areas where I can be destinational. And so I think, you tell me, Scott, on Saturdays, how many people had 4 numbers or 2 and 5 numbers? It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Like, it really is. What blows our mind is probably the biggest compliment is when people dine from Philadelphia, that from actual center city, someone that lives 9th and Federal, and this is like being out front there, hearing from 9th and Federal. Look at the selection of food that you can pick in that area, and they're driving to Wilmington to have dinner. Like, that blows our mind.
And Rob, to your point, the food court, like it's people coming to DiMeo. My family loves DiMeo's, and we love Bardea, and we're gonna love Bardea steak and Deco and everything in between.
I need to take a second mortgage out for the amount of money that we spend at Dean Vallone's.
Oh my gosh!
I mean,
well, don't get me started. I've got to drive 50 minutes to bring my son Dean Vallone's burritos.
We did run a report. I think your son was like in the top of our customers at Pizzeria Bardea. He eats like 2 margaritas every 3 days. So.
That's right. Well, anyway.
Well, guys, thank you so much for being here today,
Awesome.
but also for just not only like taking a leap of faith in Wilmington, but just to keep growing. And it's gonna be really fun to watch where this all brings us.
We're super excited.
Super, super excited.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us today. Please make sure to check out all of these restaurants mentioned, and please support downtown dining.
And follow us on social media at Buccini Poland and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you next time on Field Notes with Rob and Chris.